Welcome back, F1 fans. Get ready for a little bit more of a Dutch Grand Prix recap. Plus, we look ahead to Monza, the Italian Grand Prix. Sure to be an exciting one. We got some news and notes on some crazy things that are happening. Is this Red Bull Alpha Tauri situation for real? And of course, here we go with there they are, the Reds, Carlos Sainz and his pit issues, and so much more on some news and notes. Make sure you keep it locked here on hitting the apex, coming at you right away. Lights out. Let's go. Yo, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, Vish? How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, can't complain. Can't complain.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Back in DC, and
Yes.
as you can see, I'm back here trying to support these guys, and they're driving me crazy. But welcome back to hitting the apex here on new time. As you can see, 8:30 p.m. Although we will be starting at around 9 p.m. Generally, so keep it locked. There will be a new time either way, about 9 p.m. here on the Five Reasons Sports YouTube channel. But listen, wow, a wacky set of events happened not only not only at the Dutch Grand Prix, but outside of the Dutch Grand Prix. But listen, it was a pretty interesting race, right? Nonetheless. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsor. It's a You Break Will Fix. Let's talk a little bit about them. You Break Will Fix repairs damaged wheels from curb rash, cracks, or bends, all under one roof with in-house powder coating, CNC machining, and polishing. They also offer new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands such as Vossen, Forgiato, Fuel Off-Road, and more. They now even offer no credit check financing up to $5,000 for a new set of wheels. Fast turnaround times on all the repairs, and they even provide loaner wheels in many cases. U Break Will Fix is your total automotive wheel solution, located in North Miami, right off of Biscayne Boulevard and Northeast 146th Street. Check out some of their great work across all social media platforms, from Instagram to Facebook. You Break Will Fix. It's at You Break Will Fix. So the letter U Break Wheel Fix, or online at youbreakwheelfix.com. You can even give them a call, 305-748-0112, and schedule your appointment today. You Break Will Fix, changing the way you see wheels. As I mentioned, my friend. Oh, by the way, as you guys can see, we are down. We are down one pit crew member, as what it looks. This is basically what it looks like for Ferrari every day. Down one pit crew member here, but hopefully we can
Yeah,
get it. We can get it right.
we pulled into the pit lane an hour early, and Moni was not ready for the stop.
She's a little under the weather, so
Yeah,
we're hoping
non-COVID related illness.
non-COVID, yes, but we hope she feels better, and we'll try to hold down the fort here. I know you guys rather listen to anything she has to say better than I do, or Vish for that matter. So, but we'll try to do our best here. We got the usual suspects in the building on the chat: Fernie and Jack Daniels. Love it, love it, love it. What's going on, fellas? Uh, the Dutch GP, Vish. Um, Kind of crazy. But again, once again, it's just complete total dominance by Max Verstappen. It was Verstappen and then the rest. But however, there was some interesting stuff going on with these virtual safety cars and the actual safety car. Then you've got the AlphaTauri saga, the AlphaTauri issues, the Ferrari pit mistakes. You've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, right? What was your take on this race just as a whole? I know we broke it down at Sunday, and it's just me and you again. But again, just kind of reiterate what how crazy it was, and we've got some more information today, of course.
Yeah, it was surprisingly entertaining. I feel like
Right?
I don't know that necessarily expected. It's not generally supposed to be an interesting track. I think that Mercedes was able to pull off a strategy that no one else was able to, because one thing that you can say for that moving bus that they call a car is it is easy on the tires, has been all year. So they've been able to go longer into stints and take advantage. So when they turned it into a one stop, it mixed the whole grid up and really kind of made the race entertaining until it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, and as Fernie said, I think the takeaway is we're trying. I think at this point we're all desperate for like competitive racing, and that's kind of where some of the disappointment is with the safety cars, because I think what we missed out on was probably Max pitting, coming in behind the Mercedes, and then cutting through the field and winning anyway, which would have been a lot more entertaining than getting free stops under a safety car. But I don't know that there was any way he was not going to win.
Yeah, and those safety cars kind of helped. Well, they really didn't help Ferrari. I don't think anything helped Ferrari except.
I mean, anything that involves like introducing more strategy into play kind of hurts Ferrari by default. So then they got to start thinking, and then that leads to problems. So
just a little too much. Real quick, kind of the standings on the race here. Max Verstappen, of course, P1. George Russell came in P2. Charles Leclerc in P3, and then to round out the top 10, you've got Lewis Hamilton, Sergio Perez, Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, all the way down in 8th. Oof. Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll in the points. Listen, that 8 for Carlos Sainz looks ugly. But to be quite honest with you, I really don't want to blame him too much on it, right? I mean,
no,
I would blame him on the virtual safety car where he kind of overtook. Was it?
But actually, he didn't get a penalty for that.
He didn't, right? And he didn't, right? So
the reason he didn't, they didn't pick. So they didn't pick this up on the broadcast, but if you go rewatch that segment, you'll actually see when he made that overtake, which is right where Bottas was, which is like, what the hell's going on?
Right.
They'd actually only yellow flag sector 3. For whatever reason, they hadn't yellow flag sector 1 yet, and that was past the. So technically, there was no yellow in that zone, which is why he didn't get in trouble for it. Because that's like a disqualification level penalty for overtaking under a yellow like that with a car in the way. Now, what he did get the penalty for, which was the 5 seconds, was the unsafe release, which was Ferrari just released him into traffic, which you can't do. So that, if you look the 5 seconds, I mean, that takes him, he's 5th, and instead he's 8th. So
either way,
and then another 10 seconds on the first pit stop, and then
12, what was it? A 12-second pit stop? Was it?
It was. 13. It was. It's hard to do the calculation because after that you had the safety car to bunch the field back up. Right. The 5-second penalty in the unsafe release, it's very easy to see. Like, hey, he actually finished in 5th, and then they immediately amended the standings to drop down.
I thought you were going to say it's hard to say. It's hard to say how bad or good he is because the pits. This is the pit crew.
Well, and in a way it is, man. Right? Because he pitted out from in front of Hamilton,
right?
And then he he ended up way back down the field. So the penalty is actually worse than the look who decided to show up.
There she is. All right, we appreciate. At least you're there. At least you're there in the chat. We appreciate it, Mona.
At least she can corroborate signs of life, and we didn't fire her.
Yeah, sending you well wishes, girl. Hope you feel better.
Yep, definitely. So the penalty is actually worse than the time because then he drops back behind all these slower cars he's then stuck behind. Right. So then he spends the rest of the race really having to weave through them, and it's slowing down every lap. So they ruined his race twice.
They definitely did. I don't look, and on top of that, they just didn't have the pace that we thought they would in this on this track as well. This this track was made for Ferrari, but again, we spoke about that last week, and we said who the hell knows what's made for Ferrari anymore, because quite honestly, they just don't look very competitive. And I don't know if it's so much the car or the driver. I think it's just it was
bizarre.
Overall.
It was very bizarre weird. Because they were we're talking fractions of a second in qualifying. Like obviously fractions are a big deal in racing, but we're talking less than a tenth.
Right.
And then in the race, the pace went completely. So I don't know what happened. And if not for, Leclerc got on the podium because Mercedes screwed Hamilton. But Here's a trivia question for you. In the last 10 races, how many podiums has Leclerc finished on?
God.
And this is one of them too,
including this one.
Yeah, including this one.
I think it's only been 2.
Correct. You nailed it. 2, and one of them was this race where they didn't have the pace. So like they've created quite the mess here. Yep. We got the chat. You guys are on delay. I'm gonna take it that you entered these before Jazz said it, but Jazz did nail the 2. Yep. So yeah, and this was one of them where they were not on pace in the top 3. So just at all. It's gone completely away from them.
It was definitely abysmal, and like you said, if it wasn't for Mercedes screwing up Hamilton's just stops.
Yeah, the whole Mercedes thing.
I think it might have changed. I definitely want to talk about that. I want to talk about that because I think it's important to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know what so I understand. So afterwards, we instantly reacted to it. They tried to explain it, and Toto said, look, prioritizing finishing in second and third, we don't care. We wanted to win the race. This was the only way we could do it. But if that's the case, you also don't let Russell pit. And to me, that was... if you're going to say, like, all we care about is winning the race...
A little bit of a slap in the face.
Well, then you leave them both out there because that's your best chance to win the race. Now, was anything going to actually work? The answer is no.
Yeah.
But by allowing... And originally, they'd made the call to leave the drivers out. And then it was only when Russell's like, I want the other tires, that they made the switch. That's not his call to make at that point. And you got to just say, look, we made this decision as a team that your job right now is to block Max as much as possible, not to do what's going to make you finish higher. And that should have been their instruction. By letting him pit, they moved him out of the way, and Hamilton was dead. Like, there was no way on those tires he was holding. And he ended up behind Leclerc, who was faster than the entire race. So I think it's a mess up. Because if you're going to do that, then you put Hamilton on softs too, and you say, you know what, you guys fight it out, and maybe Max will make a mistake or something. You can get in front of him, whatever. But if you're gonna play track position, you have to do it with both cars. Because again, we're having kind of almost a semantic argument. The net effect of this is Hamilton finished 4th instead of 2nd. Because he would have that race anyway. Let's be real. Max was driving a rocket.
Yeah, it was nobody was going to beat Max either.
But I will say, he was in a better position to challenge because he's frankly a better driver, and he was faster. Russell was not really in a position to challenge, even with the tire disparity. It took several laps to get around Hamilton, who, by the way, we found this out after the race. I don't know if you saw this, Jazz, where one of the reasons Max overtook Hamilton so quickly is Hamilton messed up his engine modes, and he was in the wrong engine mode on the restart. He completely screwed it up. It's similar to what he did in Azerbaijan last, which actually ended up costing the championship, where he left the wrong switch on and didn't have brakes, and he shot over the corner where he would have won the race. Instead, he didn't get any points. Kind of made a difference at the end. But he was in the wrong engine mode. So he was actually going so slow. Max was a fraction of an inch away from overtaking him before the start-finish line, which would have been a penalty. Now, you're not allowed to brake or anything, like, as the lead driver, try and, like, cause it. Otherwise, it's a penalty for you.
Right.
But he was just slow because his car was in the wrong engine mode. So, because they'll do analysis and see, like, if there was any, like, application of the brakes or lift off the accelerator, they'll penalize the guy in front instead, because there's no way, like, the car behind's going to know that you're going to all of a sudden stop and cause a penalty. So,
I think that's interesting. And look, and for Tap made this, weird that the medium. So I found it interesting that the hards really had pace in them, and were a really good tire for this track. And we always kept saying, well, the hards are not really going to be in play. And here we are, right? They got the data, and the hards were in play, and you saw some of these cars really, basically have their best time on the hards. So why? If track evolution, right, should have those tires not being the best. What happened there?
It's track evolution. It is. We're still we kind of forget now. It's been so years. These are new tires, both in terms of compound and shape. And some of these tracks just got to figure it out. Like, they guess going in,
right?
And then they find out they're wrong, and that's what happened here. And I do think either way, like if the hards didn't work, I think Mercedes was going to run those first sets of mediums into the ground and go softs. But by the time they were in their pit windows, they could see the hards working on other cars, so they knew they could pit for it. Right. And same thing with Red Bull. They knew they could put them on as well. I don't necessarily agree that the mediums were the worst tire. I think absent the multiple safety cars, which we're going to talk about in a minute, especially the first one, I think the right strategy was actually medium hard. It was to not use the softs at all. Right. And that's what Mercedes was doing until the virtual safety car. So right. I think that was actually the right strategy overall. It was worth saving the pit stop.
The softs weren't lasting anything, but you could get some pace out of them for what, 4 or 5 laps at the most, and that's exactly like you said. That's exactly what Mercedes did at the end. Real quick before we kind of get into some news and notes, your driver of the day is it that obvious?
I mean, it's gotta be Max. He's just on another level right now. And I mean, shout out to Hamilton for driving the hell out of that car and making it interesting for a while. There was nothing he could do at the end there. So I mean, they put him on the wrong tire.
Well, speaking of that, who's your disappointment of the day? Would it be the Mercedes team and what they did with Hamilton, or would it just be
no? Because I think, look, as anyone that's like a Hamilton fan or anyone that's watching that is going to be upset because they essentially gave Russell his spot, right, and that's BS. He was faster than him all weekend. He qualified at him. He controlled the race, and then you just give the other guy the right tire for the last few laps to allow him to finish ahead. But functionally, it doesn't matter. Like there was nothing Mercedes could. It was a stupid call to split the strategies.
Right.
Ultimately, it wouldn't have mattered. Max would have breezed past Russell, and he would have breezed past Hamilton.
This is an interesting one. Checo as a disappointment. He just hasn't looked very good, and he's supposed to. He's not Valtteri Bottas. Let's just put it that way, right? He's just not.
He's not putting in the. There were multiple times that we watched Bottas and said, if Hamilton was not driving the other car,
he smokes everybody else.
Yeah, and this Red Bull appears to be having that level of gap,
right?
And yet, Checo's nowhere.
Right,
he's nowhere. In fact, he spun in qualifying, and Mercedes claims, whether that's true or not, that they were on like these killer laps that they were going to move up further. I mean, as it was, Hamilton was only 0.3 off, and I don't know how much further he could have gone up, but yeah, no, Checo's made this point, but I'll give you mine. It's Daniel Ricciardo, because that man sucks. No, I'm sorry. Like all this, like, they mistreat him. Dude couldn't get out of Q1. He is just awful.
Yeah, he's pretty bad right now.
And the fact that Norris is pulling performances out of that car, and frankly, McLaren's going to lose a lot of money, not just paying him to go away, but finishing 5th in the constructors because that guy can't even get in the points.
Right.
And to me, like, it's embarrassing to like qualify behind Williams and stuff. Like, I don't know what he's doing. Well, I know he's quitting or getting fired, but like,
yeah, he's checked out at this point.
But this predated that. Like, he has never been good. I mean, how many times has Lando gotten to like a qualifying session beyond him? Like, if he goes out in Q1, Lando gets to Q2. He's been terrible, and I know. Look, I'm a McLaren fan.
Yeah,
this dude, this says it all right here, man.
And I know it looks like a McLaren shirt, but it's not. But it might as well be, right?
I mean, this is saying it all right there. I mean, come on.
That's sad.
But big news today, McLaren did release his fall clothing collection. So go pick up that merchandise, which hopefully is on clearance because his ass is. Yeah. So to me, I think he's probably the most, underperforming his car consistently. The other ones you see like, the Austin stink here, and then like Vettel and Stroll are trying to get out of Q1.
Right.
You kind of see them at least somewhat bunched together. And then the McLarens, there's always like 2 seconds a lap, like 10 car lengths. It's just, embarrassing.
Let me tell you, for as much as I'm not a huge fan of his, Lance Stroll, I mean, continues to drive pretty well. He's in the points this week. This time around, he's not driving terribly. I mean, that Aston Martin is not a very good machine.
I mean,
either.
He shouldn't be in Formula One, and if we're being honest, so I can't get on
board.
He's finishing
in the points, Vish. I mean, Latifi, Stroll. Like right now, if you had to pick one to be
all you're doing is listing two drivers that should not be in Formula One.
But one's in the points more consistently than the other, that's for sure.
And one's driving a Williams.
Does that mean that everybody else is just that terrible? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of drivers on the grid that shouldn't be in F1 then. Because when you got Lance Stroll consistently beating Vettel, number one. Number two.
Well, so he's not. He's got 5 points for the entire year. We need to calm down.
Okay.
Dude fluked his way into a pole with a multiple safety car race, and we're all sitting here.
That's basically, he's been in the points. He's finished 10th 5 times. That's what it is.
I'm sure maybe he did finish 10th. Vettel's up at 20 points. So it's 15-point gap. This is not,
Let's calm down.
It's not Lando Ricciardo levels. In fact, I mean, look at this crap. I'm sorry. They're disappointment of the year. How are you behind Aston Martin in a McLaren? Like, seriously.
There's a world champion, Vettel. No, I'm just kidding.
Four-time.
Yeah, 4-time.
But I mean, this is why McLaren is going to, like, look at this. Like, I got Lando up here, but then, I mean, he's single-handedly even page my own. I don't know.
Where'd you go, bro? Just go back.
I don't know. Hit the back button. There we go. Right back. So you're seeing I mean, to me, Ricciardo disappointment of the weekend, disappointment of the season.
Yeah, no kidding. What a shame. All right, never mind on Lance Stroll. He still sucks. Anyways, moving along. What do we got next for you here? Let's talk a little bit about. We don't really need to talk about the overall impact on the championship.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the driver's standings. Max won.
Max
the season.
Yeah. It's Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez.
They're tied right now, but technically, if the season ended, Leclerc would finish second because it's race wins as the tiebreaker.
Gotcha.
But look, if Ferrari can find some semblance of competence, though, Leclerc will easily finish second in the drivers, and they'll finish second in the constructors. If they continue to, pit for 3 tires, then they might have a problem.
Right. They're only 30 points up in the constructors behind, and Mercedes is behind, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but again, these are all screw ups. At least Mercedes did them the favor back. But
well, again, that's typically how it goes, right? You screw up too much, and you got an opportunity to win races or to at least finish on the podium, and you see it right there. You see it. Excuse me. You see it in the standings right there. That could be a lot closer in both, to be quite honest with you. Although I still don't think. I mean, nobody's going to beat Max regardless.
Well, I mean, they didn't take advantage when they had the faster car.
Right.
Now they don't.
Yeah.
And they have the worst driver, and it's just way over.
Yeah. It's going to be tough now.
I'm not sure what I said like an hour ago, let alone 8 races ago, Jax.
What did you just say? That's what you said.
I mean, I can't remember what I had for lunch. So,
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I believe you. I just frankly don't remember anything I've said in the past. So
we'll get to that tab. We'll get to Herdo. We'll get to all that.
Yeah, we're gonna talk.
But before that, it looks like here that the Red Bull situation with Alpha Tauri and the virtual safety car, some cheating accusations were confirmed after a radio message.
Well,
and so what we're talking about is the Yuki Tsunoda situation.
So the confirmed, I think, is BS, like the way they're framing that.
It's clickbait is what it is.
Yeah,
right?
It's clickbait. But it does go into some details on the radio messages. So I'll tell you why I think it's complete BS. So essentially, just to catch everyone up, Yuki had a car problem, thought the tire was loose, pulled over to get out of the car because you cannot drive with a loose tire. Although Ferrari gave it a shot.
Well, yeah.
They tried to go 3 wheels.
They wanted to so badly.
Yeah, they were trying to, but and he also had loosened, as Fern said, he had loosened his seatbelt as well to get out of the car. When they radioed to him and said, no, the data is showing us the tire is fine, continue and drive back to the pits. So he drives back to the pits, and then they change the tires, tighten the belts up, so because you can't drive with a loose seatbelt. And as he's pulling out of the pit lane, they say, this is where it gets controversial. They tell him not to stop in the pit lane, which is normally what you would do, because they immediately knew there was a problem. They said, exit the pit lane, find a safe place, and pull over. Now, if they stop in the pit lane, you get a safety car, and they close the pit lane, which means Max gets completely screwed because the field bunches up. He still hadn't made the pit stop he needed to make.
Right.
And you bunch the field all the way up behind him. He can't go into the pits because it's closed. The safety car piles the cars up. Anytime he pits after that, he's screwed. He's going to drop way back. So that was like the worst case scenario. Now, so the confirmation is they told him to exit the pits and pull over because if he blocked the pit lane up, Max couldn't pit, but all the cars get bunched up.
Right.
Now, the reason I think this is BS, and I've heard people say, well, why would they do that? Red Bull's running away with the championship. I actually don't buy that. I mean, how many times in sports have you seen people cheat when they don't need to? It's like, what are you even doing? You're up by that much. Why would you do that?
Right.
Why is Tom Brady deflating balls? Like, what the hell? You don't need to do that. He does it anyway because when you're competitive, if you think you can get an advantage, you do it. The reason that I think it was crap is there was no reason to tell Sonoda to drive back to the pits. He had pulled over because he had a car problem.
Right.
All they do is like, if they really wanted to cause a safety car, he just had to get out of the car.
That's it.
They would not have had him drive back to the pits, and that's why I think this whole thing is garbage.
They should have just retired him right there if they really wanted to.
And I think and it is true that their behavior doesn't really make sense. Like, why would you tell them to leave the pits? But I mean, how many times do we see F1 teams? It is all happening so quickly that they just do something completely irrationally idiotic, and then you're like, "What were you thinking?" I was like, well, 400 things were happening at once. We see a sensor here. We see this thing going off there. And then we say something. And then, next thing Sainz is in the pits for 3 tires, right? I mean, if it was – so to me, I don't think there's anything nefarious there. But the one part I don't buy is why would they risk it? Because it's sports. People cheat all the time for no reason.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying that there was, but I mean, it feels like it. Because look, at the end of the day, there's competition, like you said. There's rivalry. Who are the cars that they were competing against that day? It was really Mercedes, not so much Ferrari. Yeah. So I mean,
the other thing, which is again complete crap. Christian Horner coming on saying, "Boy, that I don't know what you're talking about. That was a horrible timing for our safety car. We wanted to run Max longer." I'm like, get the hell out of here!
Oh, come on.
And that almost makes you feel like they did do it on purpose.
Exactly.
Like, why are you trying to cover this up? That did help you. It was like any kind of safety car that allowed him to pit and come back out in first was what he was looking for. So I don't know what Christian Horner was talking about, but again, like they had a simple, easy way to do that, which is to say, Yuki, you're correct. The tire's not on right. Stop the car and get out.
And that's it.
Yeah, and that's it. So like the fact that they didn't do that and they tried to fix it, to me means they were not actually trying to cause it.
All right, so let's kind of moving right along here before we get to the Italian GP to Monza. Real quick on the Piastri to McLaren situation. It looks like the contract recognition board sides with him. So it looks like this is all but a done deal now. Piastri to McLaren, right?
Yeah, and while I don't remember what I said 8 races ago or whatever, I'm pretty sure it was Evan that kind of said, the prevailing wisdom was that if they didn't confirm Piastri in the seat by July 31st, this is Alpine, he could go to another team. Looks like the contract recognition board sided with that and said yes. So it looks like Alonso did in fact screw Alpine by waiting until that clause expired, then leaving. So they recognize the McLaren contract, so no money to Alpine, and in fact, the way this works is the loser on that appeal or whatever is responsible for the fees for the other team. So Alpine gets to write McLaren a check for $500,000 on top of that, and find another driver. So yeah, he goes to McLaren, which looks like it's going to be Gasly going to Alpine.
Well, that was my next question, right?
Well, so here's the thing that is in the works, provided Red Bull releases him. And so Red Bull will only release him apparently.
Oh, that's right, because he is right. He's with Alpha Tauri. Right.
Yeah, no. No, not the Red Bull. Well, I mean, it's the same company. It's the same team. It's the same parent team.
Right.
They own all the drivers. So.
Right.
So well, that's why it's so weird, because the people commenting on this are Helmut Marko and Christian Horner. It's not. This is. They gotta force them to sell AlphaTauri. That's a whole other topic. Maybe it's an off-season topic, but like, you can't have this. But it's not even AlphaTauri talking about this. It's completely being run by Red Bull. And this is where the
that was my next thing.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Will he get his license? Will he get his super license?
So before addressing that, there's another question there, which is Red Bull just bluffing? Because what Red Bull needs is, they have, obviously, Red Bull and AlphaTauri agree that he should get his license.
Yeah, of course.
They're trying now. Will Alpine be like, yeah, he should get his license because that way they'll get Gasly, right? So they're building a. So are they actually going to force Gasly to stay against his will for another year? Is the question,
right?
If they don't get Herta now, in terms of the super license point, as Evan said, he's almost there, but this is like a convoluted thing. So.
Yeah, will they waive those final 2 points?
Well, it's not even waive it. There's several things going on here. So the first thing is the way they account points is garbage in the first place. IndyCar is a top flight series, right, in which they award less points than you get for F2. So essentially, by doing better in a better series, he's getting less points. But that's not actually remediable. So that's the points he has. There's a couple of open questions. One is, the way your super license points add up is you count your last 4 years, you count 3 of them. So 4 years ago, Colton Herta was racing in Indy Lights, which is the junior Indy car circuit. You do accumulate points for that, and he accumulated more points in that than his lowest IndyCar season, theoretically. So he could count that, and that would get him over 40. The problem is, because of COVID and there weren't that many drivers in the series that year, they awarded no points. Gotcha. So he has no points for that year, for that Indy Light season. So that he can't even count that. So he has to.
Yeah, he'd be way over.
He'd be able to do that. So that's one thing that they can appeal on and say, hey, because there is force majeure clauses in this where they could say, like if there's something that impacted your ability to get it. Right. Or otherwise you would. So they could say, look, if they just awarded points like any normal season, I would have enough. That's one. The other thing is, there's some weird language in the contract on what counts towards points, about the tracks being recognized as F1 quality or F1 like, or some reference to F1 type of circuits.
Right.
Which if you watched Indy cars like in the 90s versus now, you might not realize that they basically don't do ovals anymore. They do the Indy 500 like one or two other races. They're mostly street circuits, and which would be the street circuits. The road circuits are F1 like circuits. So actually, if you redo the Indy standings without the ovals, then Colton Herta actually has like 60 points out of the is way over.
That's crazy.
So he sucks on ovals, essentially. So there's another interpretation.
You don't have to worry about ovals here.
Yeah. Well, so there's another interpretation of that where you could argue that actually the way that this is written in the regulations, they should not be counting the oval races.
Gotcha.
Because those are not F1 like circuits. If you do that, then he qualifies as well. So there's a couple of angles for them to appeal in there. The reason they have this is because in the past, this was more in the 90s, but you would buy a seat and put someone that can't drive in the car, and that's what they used to do. So they make them accumulate enough points to qualify. Clearly, someone that's won, I believe, 7 races in IndyCar and has finished in the top 5 multiple times, can handle an open wheel car. So this is not the use case for which they have the license. But so what we'll see, there's a couple of ways they can kind of excuse him and get him his super license so he can drive. If one of those two, I mean, they were saying they hope Helmut Marko again. It's so they gotta make them sell that team. But was saying they hope to have it resolved by Monza, which is obviously this weekend. So. So
Monza,
yep.
Monza. The Italian GP is here. And just look, I mean, look, right off the bat, right? This is the first thing that I'm gonna just tell you. This is so Red Bull, man. This is such a Red Bull circuit. Look at that track. Look at those straights. Look at the minimal corners. I mean, you've got. Let me just. I'm blind here, so I'm gonna have to make it larger. But look at that. I mean, it's really 7, 6. The chicane in 4 and 5 is really, I, I'm sure live it's not as sharp as it looks in this on this map, but this is a Red Bull circuit. I think the chicane on 1 and 2 is probably your, and that part's going to be exciting to watch. I think at the beginning, at the start.
Yeah, and this is your overtaking spot because you get the long. If you get a good run off turn 11 and you try to get them into turn 1. This is where Max tried to murder Hamilton last year.
7 to 8 looks like a pretty decent to overtaking spot as well. I think there's an opportunity there too. So yeah, I mean, look, what can we really say? But this is Red Bull all the way, and considering the way that they're performing lately, there's no reason to think otherwise. I think that.
I think the question is, how is Checo going to manage to finish like 7th again?
Right, it's not even about Max anymore. It's more about like, is Checo going to be able to compete and be up there?
Yeah, and so I mean, yeah, I think that's the question. I think there's no way Max, barring some kind of like engine trouble, doesn't win this.
Right. I was about to say, is there any opportunity for a Mercedes or a Ferrari to win this?
I mean, definitely. This looks like, I would say, if not Red Bull, this would have to be for. I mean, Mercedes does not do well on these high speed circuits. I mean, we saw over the last 2 weeks the difference, right? They were very competitive in the Netherlands. In Belgium, they were nowhere.
Right.
And this is more similar to the Belgium track in terms of just power and high speed. There's a couple of slow speed turns, but mostly high speed curves more so than turns, and a lot of straights. That does not suit this Mercedes at all.
Yeah. So tire compound C2 to C4. So now we're seeing a little bit of a different tire as opposed to 1 to 3. And that just kind of tells you, this is for like you said, these power circuits, using those tires. As far as degradation, this is probably the way to go here. What are you thinking as far as what they're going to use here? Is this by the way, 53 laps? Let me kind of talk about that real quick there, right? 53 laps, minute 21 was the record by, I can't even see it here. I can't see the name, by the way. I'm kind of blind there. What's the name? Who got the fastest lap here?
Rubens Barrichello.
Oh, okay. Rubens Barrichello. Okay. Yeah, I was like, who is that? But anyways, doesn't really matter. 53 laps, 121. It looks like. I mean, this is one of your typical, like you said, power circuits where the tire degradation, tire usage is going to be interesting. Are we looking at maybe a one stop or a 2 stopper on this one here?
So I mean, there's a conversation going in the chat, and this is a race where you have safety cars, so I think that'll impact. I would say probably a 2 stop because of that. There'll be strategic opportunities to pit. We've had red flags here in the past as well. So I would expect that. The other thing is, if it turns out to like teams are trying to 1 stop, this is a tough circuit to do that on, because it is, when you get those fresh tires on with the long straights, it is easier to overtake. So I don't know that you can really defend track position on someone with fresher tires. So I would expect them to be more aggressive with pit stops. So I'd say they probably come in playing for 2, but with all the safety cars and stuff, you might get more than that.
Are we probably looking at the C3 to the C4 as the best performing tires on this on the grid?
Yeah, I would say the probably the right tire to start on is probably the C3.
Right.
But again, so one of the challenges that there's been, and you saw this in the Dutch GP, is to get these all these cars are struggling. Mercedes is probably worst at this, but all these cars are struggling with tire warm up. And when you start on the harder compound tires, whether it's the medium or the hards, you're at a big disadvantage off the start. And teams have been increasingly opting for, just give me the soft tire, we'll figure it out. even if it's not the best strategy. Mercedes went the other way in Holland and kind of could have got a huge advantage out of it. So we'll see if some teams are willing to sacrifice maybe a few plays at the start,
right?
Knowing that when they get the tires up to temperature with the long straights, they can overtake back. Or which teams put the
I think that's why they're using the harder compounds, because on these straights, a lot of that power and the overtaking, they're going to need that, right? They're going to need those harder compounds.
Yeah, and they're going to need, and I think especially if you're thinking that there are going to be safety cars,
right?
You want to run that session as long as possible to start with, in case it comes out, you get the free pit stop.
Exactly.
The softer tires, if you're going to have to pit sooner, less chance of like something opening up for you to get into. And also with the high speed nature of the circuit, in a relatively short lap time, there is an opportunity to open up bigger pit gap windows. So you want to make sure, again, I think running that first stint longer will benefit the overall strategy. So I think most teams would ideally want to start on the C3, the mediums, but again, we've seen teams just say, it's a slower strategy, but I don't want to get past at the beginning.
Right.
So all the teams at the front, other than Mercedes, put on the softs to start the Dutch Grand Prix, knowing it was a worse strategy. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Go figure. Let's look at the race timing sessions here. Looks like Friday morning is FP1 at 8 a.m. and then you've got FP2 at 11 a.m. on Friday morning. Practice number 3 on Saturday morning starts at 7 in the morning, and then you've got qualifying at 10 a.m., which I will do my very best to watch if I'm not at the stadium already. 10 a.m. qualifying, and then you've got the race on Sunday morning at 9 a.m., which is beautiful because it leads right into the NFL. Perfect. Yeah, this is Italy, man. This is Italy, and I'm gonna go ahead and after we talk about the weather here, Ferrari needs to show up here. So this is what the weather forecast looks like here. I don't know. Are we going to get too much? Are we going to get some bad weather here or not? It looks like Saturday, maybe a little bit of rain.
There's an opportunity for some inclement weather potentially.
Even Sunday,
and one scattered thunderstorm. If it scatters at the wrong time, again, it could mix something up here.
Right.
Again, if it is a dry race, I think, Max will probably end up lapping 15 of the 20 cars.
Right.
But if, you throw some weather in there and some stuff, you might have some
interesting stuff.
Maybe.
You might see Nicholas Latifi in the points.
Yeah, let's not get carried away here.
Oh man!
If he's in the points, who's causing the red flag or the safety car? You can't do both things at once. So.
I'm gonna go with Sonoda again or something. Who knows?
Speaking of which, I forgot to touch on this. Sonoda was actually had other points accumulations for like safety things. So when he loosened his belts to get out of the car, that tipped him over the edge. So he has a 10-place penalty in Italy. So
wow. Okay.
For taking his seatbelt, for loosening his seatbelt and driving him out to the pits like that. So.
Well, let's see who's going to bring some. If anybody's going to bring some upgrades to this one, if anybody's going to kind of make some changes. Look, anything can happen in a race like this.
I honestly don't. I don't think we're going to see many upgrades at all to any of these cars the rest of the year. To be
this is true. You make a good point.
There's no point in doing that. So
that's true. That's true. Like I mentioned earlier, my drivers to watch. This is Monza, man. And Ferrari needs to show out, and they need to have a good showing. So I definitely, it's as simple as that. This is Monza. This is their race. I need Leclerc and Sainz to have a good race, a solid race, be competitive, and kind of show me a little something. Show me that they've got a little heart. Show me that Ferrari team is still going to be competitive. It still wants, to kind of be up there and win and steal one from Red Bull, steal one from, if they could. Obviously it's going to be very tough to with the way Max is driving, but show me a little something, man. That it's simple for me, for drivers and team to watch. It's Leclerc, Sainz, and it's Ferrari. That's simple as that. Show me that for things are getting kind of weird in the chat, huh?
Yeah, they're talking about movies. I wasn't that big of a fan of the Schumacher documentary, I'd say. I know they're liking it in the chat.
It was all right. Yeah, Rush was cool though.
Rush was
awesome.
great.
Rush was awesome.
Yeah.
Vish, what's your take on drivers and team to watch, man? So we can get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Red Bull, right? I just, unless they screw up, this is going to be boring. I guess the subplot to that is, does Hamilton return the Max favor from last year and just drive him off the road and land on top of him?
Sure.
Which
sure, what the hell? Why not?
That turn one last year is where Max almost killed him. Thank God for the halo.
Yep, I remember that.
Because he was going to overtake him because he was much faster. So I was like, forget this. We'll both go out. Yeah, they were so kind. They gave Max a penalty in race for it, which is good because they were both out of the race. But
right. so you're looking at Red Bull.
Yeah, I'm looking at Red Bull. I'm curious to see if what the Mercedes do as well. Just because they've been so bad on these circuits. Is it really just because every time they look like, oh, Mercedes is competitive, maybe they can take a step and do something.
Oh man.
Then the next circuit comes around and it's snaps right back. So this is a circuit they should in theory do poorly at. So they're not going to win. It's going to be Max. It's just, ooh, I tip my number one of the top three, but are they still like a full second back on a power circuit? It was Mercedes close to that gap.
I love what Evan and Fern are saying here. Evan Pit Crew's doing our own. Yes, clearly you guys are doing your own thing. I love it. And then, yeah, look, that's a cool one too. That's a cool one to watch. I think that the back and forth between those two is going to be cool to watch up until the end. So I like that. Vish, well, so Moni's prediction, because she's out, she did give us her predictions earlier on. She said Max, Leclerc, and Ham is her podium. And then the Haas and the double points is what she gave us for a surprise, which would be a very, very big surprise. But hey, stranger things have happened. Haas is probably better on the straight. They've got a little more power, so hey, they could compete a little bit towards the mid to the back end of the points. So I can see that. Vish, what's your podium look like, man?
I'll go Max for one. Then like 30 seconds back, signs for two.
And then another 15 seconds back.
No, then I'll go Leclerc third right behind him, and they're trying to manipulate it, and Sainz tells them to fuck off, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, it's probably gonna happen. Yeah,
just like I've had it with you guys.
That's a surprise there, yeah.
Yeah, and that's assuming there's like a safety car to bunch the field up a little ways. Otherwise, 30 seconds is probably a little bit low. He's going to run away with this race. And then surprise, I'll go Albon in the top 7.
All right. See, that's a good one.
Williams do well in the straights. So
that's a good one. I'm gonna flip it around. I'm gonna say Max Leclerc signs. For sure. And then I'm gonna say that I hate to do this to Moni, but I'm gonna go Checo with a DNF. As my surprise.
I mean, surprise could be that Checo is actually somewhere near the front where they can show his car.
Surprise, Checo finishes 4th.
Checo's actually in frame, so you see his car during the race.
Right.
So Jack's got Max, Carlos, and Russell, and then Fern's got Max, Leclerc, Sainz, and both Mercedes DNF.
We'll write these down for you guys.
Yeah.
Jack said Max,
Carlos, and Russell.
And Russell. Okay. And then Tap said.
Yeah. Max, Leclerc, Sainz, both Mercedes, DNF. And then Evan's got Max, Leclerc, Russell.
Mercedes, DNF. Max, Leclerc, Russell.
Yep.
Max, Leclerc, Russell. All right.
And then Jack's asking if Ricardo finishes above or below P12, unless there's 8 DNFs below.
Well, I'm going to say below also.
This is, by the way, we didn't mention this is the race he won last year. He won this race.
He won Monza, but he is not.
That is like literally the only thing he's done like the last 5 years.
He's not in the same McLaren number 1, and he is, and I mean, a lot has to happen for something crazy like that to happen.
Yeah, no, he can't. He's not.
He's done. Yeah. Thank you everybody in the chat for tuning in with us. The pit crew always kicking out.
Gus showing up right at the end here. And
Gus shows up at the end. Huh? All right, Max Leclerc Russell. We're getting a lot of Max Leclerc Russells, so that's interesting.
Yeah. I feel like Manny has infiltrated the pit crew here, and
oh God, Manny, don't do it. He's in San Francisco. He's not watching this. Thanks for joining us, guys. Gus, since you got in late, unless you've been watching, I don't know. Make sure you rewatch it. Had a good time there. Appreciate the love. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday night. We're going to start at 9 p.m. now. Moving forward, it'll be a 9 p.m. start on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe. Smash the like button. Subscribe. Tune in. Follow us on Twitter at F1_5 Reasons. And again, every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. here, hitting the Apex on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. We'll see you guys next weekend. I'm sorry. We'll see you guys for post-race, hopefully.
Yeah,
right?
Post-race.
Post-race Sunday after Monza.
Yeah, we'll talk about, boy, do you remember Max lapping the entire field like that? Yeah. I cannot believe he left the whole field. That's going to be the discussion.
Pretty much. We appreciate
and whatever Ferrari does in the pits. So we'll discuss that on Sunday.
There you go. And Moni, if you're still here, Jack says feel better and see you next time. Definitely. We'll see you guys on Sunday after the race. Adios.